Hello, I'm Dave Osborne, Chief Executive Officer and General Manager of Valley Telephone Cooperative based in Raymondville. I invite you to join me as I guide you on a tour of our communities throughout South Texas. These video newsletters will provide current information about our plans to grow, our technology, our network infrastructure, and our service offerings that will make life in our rural areas more pleasant and entertaining, and help businesses work more efficiently and achieve a higher level of exposure to their markets and customers. Ready? Here we go with this issue. Welcome back to VTCI's series of our community newsletters. In our last meeting, we went over a little history of the parent company, Valley Telephone Cooperative. And continuing in this line of thought, I would like to talk about the mountain of uncertainty that we're facing when it comes to the State of Texas Public Utilities Commission and the Federal Communications Commissions enacting new rules and laws. While these regulatory agencies' intentions are well-meaning in their desire to ensure Americans are provided with the opportunity to use high-speed broadband technologies in their everyday life, their methodology in setting up new rules and laws will be detrimental to all small rural telecommunications service providers, including VTCI. Simply stated, VTCI stands to lose millions of dollars in cost recovery through its participation in the Universal Service Fund. The final outcome of these changes in laws and rules may change the way VTCI and its affiliates operate. As we move deeper into this discussion, we hope you will understand the gravity of the situation and how your board of directors and executive management of VTCI are doing all they can to mitigate the impact of these laws. Valley Telephone Cooperative prides itself in its ability to provide excellent services at very affordable prices. In the past 60 years, Valley Telephone's challenge to provide services has been mainly centered on influences such as weather, including hurricanes, or geography when new remote residences are needing telephone service in a far corner of a newly created ranch. Other challenges have been connectivity to national telecommunications companies for links to the Internet backbone network, because these are located in the very large cities in Texas, such as Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio. Another continuing challenge for VTCI has been to continue the technical education of employees as the technology changes. As employees retire or leave in pursuit of other interests, we have been concerned because the technical level of prospective employees wasn't being addressed by all the South Texas institutions of higher learning. In VTCI service areas, our school systems have been at the forefront of receiving the latest broadband technologies for our young students to enjoy, and at the same time, keeping pace with their student counterparts in the big cities in Texas. Another issue is pricing. In the past months, the State of Texas PUC and the Federal Communications Commission have issued new regulations that will make the VTCI member customers have to pay increased rates for service. These regulatory agencies have decided that all telephone customers in the state will be paying the same amount for monthly service regardless of the local telephone company's name or location. This is called benchmarking, and it is a form of government-mandated pricing. As the Valley Telephone Cooperative member customer is hit with substantial rate increases over the next 4 to 5 years to get to the State of Texas benchmark rate, you will be paying more for your VTCI telephone line or broadband line. In addition, VTCI stands to lose hundreds of thousands or maybe millions in revenues resulting in changes to the cost recovery methods and federal support rules for rural telephone companies with high costs for providing services such as ours. In simple terms, VTCI cost for providing service to an average customer is 10 to 12 times the cost when compared to a city customer. Previous administrations at the FCC and PUC recognized this imbalance in cost of providing service that is caused by having to serve rural and remote areas where no service has gone before and neighbors with service are few and far between. These Universal Service Funds, or USF, were designed to allow rural companies to keep pace with urban companies when it came to equivalent services and prevent a digital divide between the big city-based telephone companies and the rural and remote telephone companies like ours. Even though VTCI individually and in concert with telephone associations argued against and openly opposed these detrimental changes in the rules, the state and federal regulators decided that the urban city dwellers were more important than rural communities and cooperative members. Unfortunately, most of these state and federal rulemakers are young and the product of only urbanized living. They do not have any idea as to the enormous technological and economic challenges that come from trying to serve rural and remote customers with a density ratio of less than 1 subscriber per square mile. While I was at Washington, D.C. at a meeting with a Texas congressman and his staff, one of the new congressional aides stated, "Well, we just need to give all the rural people iPads to fulfill their broadband needs." Little did this young staffer know, it takes a wireline company with their network that's mainly buried in the ground that permits the iPads to work as a wireless connection. They do not know that VTCI has wireless dead spots in the service areas where there are no bars on a cell phone or the display simply reads "no service."
Want to know more about interesting people and places in South Texas? Follow me on a journey of inspiration and insight that will offer a deeper connection with people and businesses in our community.
This is called scary situation now. This is not an easy business.
Don't miss new episodes of Backroad Reporter with Annie Studebaker on VTX TV Channel 1.
For more than 15 years, Valley Telephone was allowed to recover universal service funds based on the number of voice telephone lines that were in service. But the FCC's National Broadband Plan has capped the Universal Service Fund high-cost local loop, meaning there is a fixed amount that is allocated nationwide. In the past, universal service funds for high-cost companies like VTCI were based on the actual cost for providing the service plus a rate of return on VTCI's investment. Under the FCC's plan, only the broadband lines in service will be eligible for universal service funds. Today, only about half of VTCI member subscribers have broadband lines at their home or business for their internet and television entertainment, and the other half have only the voice lines. If the FCC's new rules allow recovery at a lower capped rate for each broadband line and only 1/2 of Valley Telephone member customers have broadband, it is easy to see that VTCI USF recovery could be reduced by as much as 50%. Although these rules are taking shape in Washington, D.C. and Austin, VTCI is actively working with its state and federal industry organizations such as the Texas Telephone Association and the National Telecommunications Cooperative Association to continue to illustrate and demonstrate the potential financial hardships that slashing USF for cost recovery will cause small rural telephone companies. As an optimistic view, we know that there's going to be a reduction in the funds that come from Austin and Washington, D.C. However, we don't know how much the damage will be for Valley Telephone's bottom line. Finally, the Federal Communications Commission has decided that inter-carrier compensation, or ICC, rates for originating and terminating long-distance calls must be dropped down to where all the carriers, regardless of size, all pay the same rate for placing or receiving a long-distance call. This means that the huge multinational companies like AT&T or Verizon will be enjoying substantially lower costs for sending their customer calls into and receiving calls from Valley Telephone Cooperative. In the past 15 years, small companies received more for each long-distance minute because these companies did not have the economies of scale when compared to one of the big billion-dollar companies with national networks. The net effect of lowering Valley Telephone's access and terminating rates to equal the big billion-dollar companies like AT&T, Verizon, means that less revenues will be billed and collected by VTCI. In return for lowering its long-distance access and terminating rates, Valley Telephone Cooperative and all the other telephone companies are not supposed to receive any long-distance calls that cannot be billed. Unbilled LD calls have been a problem at the federal and state level for almost 10 years without being addressed, and in our opinion, these naive regulatory agencies will be counting on the cheaters to come clean and not do what they've been doing for the past 10 years. Valley Telephone and its fellow telephone companies and industry associations recommended that these LD access rates be lowered over a period of time versus an immediate reduction. However, again, common sense did not prevail, and the FCC and Texas PUC have mandated rate reductions to satisfy the major players like AT&T and Verizon. Here's a recap of the challenges, and they are as follows. 1. As a VTCI member customer, your rates for service will be increasing to meet FCC and Texas PUC mandated rate benchmarks. 2. With only about 1/2 of VTCI member customers using broadband internet, the FCC and Texas PUC will be paying a reduced amount of universal service funds based only on member customers with broadband and not remitting any funds for member customers with only voice services. 3. The large billion-dollar multinational companies like AT&T and Verizon pay less for getting calls from and sending calls to small rural telephone companies. The small rural telephone companies lose these intercarrier compensation revenues because the reductions are so drastic, only the big companies get a break. As you can see, as a member customer of VTCI, none of these new regulations and laws provide any economic relief for rural companies. Since the Valley Telephone Strategic Plan was set up in 2005, each year the VTCI Board of Directors and Executive Management have updated the plan in anticipation of drastic economic measures by the state and federal regulatory agencies. Meanwhile, VTCI Board of Directors and Executive Management have been exploring all options that will continue the growth and service quality of the member customers. With the expansion to the adjacent Verizon towns that we're currently undertaking, we expect to reduce the dependence on federal and state cost recoveries for the combined corporation. We're building a 4-county fiber network that will serve as the foundation for building a profitable metropolitan competitive access provider for the Rio Grande Valley towns. We will keep VTCI's member customers informed as to these adverse changes in future editions of The Caller, the Co-op's quarterly newsletter. Hopefully, you have a better understanding of Valley Telephone's role meeting these enormous challenges. In our next and subsequent episodes, we will introduce you to the wholly owned affiliates VTX Communications, VTX Telecom, and VTX Investment.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
Last week, we introduced you to the VTCI towns of San Perlita, Port Mansfield, and Tilden service areas, as well as our new VTX Telecom community of Dilley. In today's segment, we'll look at 4 Valley Telephone towns of El Sauz, Concepcion, San Miguel, and Millett. The unique aspect of today's show is that the communities of San Miguel and Millett no longer have a geographic area that can be designated as a town. but the VTCI service area creates a commonality of a community of member subscribers in rural Texas. So sit back, relax, and enjoy learning a little about Valley Telephone's fine communities and the people who live in them. The Sauz service area of VTCI comprises approximately 90% of Starr County and approximately 10% of Jim Hogg County. The town of Sauz is located about 16 miles north of Rio Grande City in Roma, where Texas Farm to Market Road 3167 meets Texas Highway 649. The Sauz area has a little Wild West history, as the Mexican bandito revolutionary Gregorio Cortez was captured by Texas Rangers in Sauz after a raid into Texas in 1901. The town is located on Los Olmos Creek, and Sauz means weeping willow. This area of Starr County is often referred to by residents as the hill country of the valley because of the beautiful mesas that overlook the rocky arroyos. The Sauz service area serves as a rural feeder system for the Rio Grande City, Roma, and Hebronville independent school districts. In the Sauz exchange, just north of the Rio Grande City limits on Texas Highway 755, Valley Telephone began testing fiber optics to the home in Rio Vista Development's residential subdivision called 755 Country Estates. This upscale community was just being developed in the spring and summer of 2007, when VTCI decided that the legacy copper ADSL2 Plus would have to give way to the new fiber optic technology. VTCI has been delighted with being able to provide higher speed broadband internet and internet television entertainment services through fiber optics. Another attraction in the Sauz area is the U.S. Immigration, Customs, and Drug Enforcement tethered blimp. This 80-yard balloon is secured to the ground by a huge cable system that allows the blimp to reach a height of almost 3 miles. The original purpose of the surveillance site was to detect low-flying aircraft that were approaching from the south, trying to enter the United States with contraband. When late September arrives each year, Sauz, Our Lady of Guadalupe, has its Cactus Festival and trail ride. The small town of Sauz swells to accommodate approximately 3,000 to 4,000 visitors. The festival also acts as a homecoming for former residents and families, and the participants are treated to good food, good music, and good dancing. There are contests and vendor booths for all ages at the festival, which begins on Friday and ends on Sunday. Valley Telephone-sponsored cooking teams have always come away with awards, including All-Around Champion. In addition, VTCI sponsors the Starr County Junior Livestock Show, which is held the last week in February each year in Rio Grande City at the Starr County Fairgrounds. Our next VTCI community is Concepcion, which holds the distinction of being the oldest town in Duval County, with a history that dates back to the Spanish land grants in Texas by the King of Spain in the early 1700s. Concepcion is located on Texas Farm to Market Road 716, about equidistant between the towns of Relitos and Fremont. Concepcion Elementary School is in the Ramirez era, and it is part of the Benavides CISD, which is located 14 miles to the north. At the turn of the 20th century, Concepcion was caught up in a geographical boundary fight where political rivals were attempting to split Duval County in half. The resulting fallout from the boundary fight gave roads to the north through Benavides and Freer better access through Concepcion. Each year, Concepcion area enjoys the Duval County Muy Grande Whitetail Buck Deer Contest that is recorded and awarded in Freer to the north. With the many high-fenced game ranches in Concepcion service area, this region produces some very sizable scores on the Boone and Crockett Antler scoring system. Concepcion also has a historic Catholic church that is one of the oldest structures in town. The Fiesta del Rancho and Trail Ride are held annually in the first weekend of October. Similar in scope is the Sauz Festival. Fiesta Trail Riders begin riding in the morning in Relitos and arrive in the early afternoon for a parade through downtown Concepcion. The parade finishes in the Fiesta Park and Grounds located on the east side of Concepcion. During the fiesta, Concepcion's population swells from about 60 permanent residents to a crowd of 1,500 to 2,000 visitors. Please look for the announcement in the Updates and Calendar section for these shows. The people of Concepcion know how to throw a 3-day weekend party that is fun and entertaining for the whole family. The northernmost exchange for Valley Telephone is the San Miguel service area. This VTCI service area covers the eastern and northeastern third of Frio County and a portion of Atascosa County. San Miguel once was a town located approximately 10 miles northeast of Pearsall on Texas Highway 140 between Pearsall and Charlotte. Without having a major transportation route through it or a natural resource wealth, San Miguel was depleted of its residents and became what is known as a ghost town. With the many large farms and ranches in the area, the San Miguel area remains a viable community for Valley Telephone. The member customer residents of San Miguel attend schools in Dilley, Pearsall, or Charlotte. San Miguel is located at the north and western end of the red clay winter garden area of Texas, where a large portion of the fruits and vegetables are grown. Over the history of VTCI, the member customers of San Miguel have always been a very supportive and active group in the cooperative. In the San Miguel VTCI Exchange area, approximately 10% of the exchange has fiber to the home, where the remaining 90% is still on copper DSL technology. Eventually, the remainder of the San Miguel service area will be converted to fiber optic. It is projected that as San Antonio and Bexar County grow, the San Miguel area could become a bedroom rural suburb. The San Miguel area also has several large high-fence hunting ranches for white-tailed deer, exotic imported antelope, and wild turkeys. These hunting ranches are active users of broadband to promote their livelihood through their websites and web cameras that feature the wildlife. VTCI is happy to serve this area. Before wrapping up this portion of the show, VTCI would like to recognize the Millett Exchange service areas. The Millett Exchange was an acquisition from the Medina Electric Cooperative in the 1950s. The Millett Exchange resides in parts of Frio, LaSalle, and Zavala counties. After 3 tries at names, Millett became the formal name in 1888, and the town was a thriving, growing rail junction because water for irrigation was discovered through the artesian process. As a farming community, Millett grew with a post office, several stores, and a growing school. In 1913, the thriving railroad junction town of Millett experienced a similar fate as Chicago, Illinois in 1871. Both Millett and Chicago suffered at the hands of a huge fire that wiped out the downtown business district. However, only Chicago was able to fully recover. At one time in the early 1900s, Millett had a school with an enrollment of more than 300 students. But with a decline in population, rural residents found out that sending their children to local schools in the nearest towns such as Dilley, Cotulla, or Big Wells was more cost-effective. Today, Millett does not have a defined town area. Millett enjoys having excellent soil for truck farming, where vegetables are grown in abundance. In the winter garden area, the red clay soil produces an abundance of peanuts, cotton, grain sorghum, and potatoes. As mentioned in an earlier segment, Millett and Dilley share the credit for having an olive orchard that produces award-winning olive oil. Dilley has the mailing address and Millett is credited with the actual growing geography. Like its neighboring towns of Fowlerton, Tilden, Charlotte, Jourdanton, and Artesia Wells, Millett is blessed with the current oil boom accredited to the Eagle Ford Shale Formation. The Millett area has its share of high-fence game-managed hunting ranches that bring in white-tailed deer hunters from all over the United States. A portion of the VTCI Millett Exchange has been converted to the fiber optic cable to the premises. Gradually, these VTCI fiber routes will be expanded to cover additional members on their ranches and farms. Millett has been an excellent acquisition for Valley Telephone, and VTCI enjoys serving the member customers in Millett. Once again, we have completed looking at 4 more of our local communities served by VTCI or its VTX Telecom affiliate. So until next time, from the employees of VTCI and VTXT, We hope you tune in to see your town featured or learn something new about your neighboring community. Thanks for watching.